This video is now in session, and we're going to focus on 3 states today for redistricting. If I can fit another state in, then I'll definitely do so. Otherwise, it's going to be 3, and they're going to be focused on the southern region. If you see, I guess, if you've watched all of my redistricting videos, you can start to see a pattern of how I choose states. I choose states based on the amount of congressional districts that they have, and as well as the competitiveness of their state. So usually I do prioritize the amount of congressional districts first. So California will most likely be the last one. Actually, California will not be the last one. You can try to guess which state will be the last one, but California will not be the last one. In fact, California may not even be the second to last one. So that's a lot of videos away though. So let's focus on these 3 states first: Louisiana, Alabama, and as well as Mississippi. I'm going to start with Mississippi. I'm going to start backwards with Mississippi first. And Mississippi currently is pretty gerrymandered for Republicans. This is literally the exact same map as it's the exact same map as the Republican gerrymandering map. No difference. I'm just clicking both of them right now. And there's no opportunity for Republicans to gerrymander this even more, even though they have a rule saying that there is no gubernatorial veto that's possible. So it's gonna stay like this, and they definitely need to have this. If they somehow gerrymander even more, which I doubt they can, so that the second district becomes Republican, the Democrats can very easily challenge that notion in the courts and say that they are not following. They are not allowing for the demographics to be properly represented, and that's something you can definitely go to the courts for. So that's going to stay intact. For Alabama, they are poised to lose a congressional district. Meanwhile, pretty much the only state in the South to lose a congressional district is in Alabama. Louisiana isn't losing. Mississippi, Arkansas, Tennessee, South Carolina, all of these states aren't losing. Meanwhile, Georgia's not losing. Meanwhile, North Carolina is gaining 1, and Florida is gaining 2. Alabama is just a sore thumb in the southern states. So, how can Republicans benefit from this? Well, they can't, because it's not really possible to get the 7th district, which Terry Sewell currently represents. There's not really a way to get her district out and get the rest of the districts to be Republican, because it doesn't seem possible based on how the Democrats are concentrated in the 7th district. They're concentrated here and as well as here, so it's really iffy as to how they would do that. But the second thing is that Democrats can easily challenge it in the court if Republicans somehow do find a way to get all 6 congressional districts to go for Republicans. Again, Alabama is losing 1 congressional district, so as a result, they'll most likely have to axe the Republicans will have to axe one of their own seats, even though a simple majority veto can override a governor's veto, even though the governor of Alabama is a Republican. So they would have to axe this one and then combine 2 with 3, 1, and 7. Now, that said, if let's just say if Alabama is able to have the same amount of congressional districts as before, that's probably worse for Democrats, that's worse for Republicans, because Democrats can actually challenge the court with this southern region of Alabama, because they want an additional black majority district to better correlate with the racial distinctions that is in Alabama. So as a result, the 7th district and the 2nd district would both be Democratic. This is where Mobile is, and this is where Birmingham is. Both have a high concentration of African Americans. So that would be a gain for Democrats, and that's contingent on 2 facts: on the idea that Alabama will keep the same amount of congressional districts, and that the courts would actually affirm Democrats' their arguments. So I generally don't think this will happen. Instead, I'll think that Republicans will just have to axe one of their own members. So that is Alabama right there. 6 congressional districts, right? 1, 2, 3, yep, 6. So that would, I'm going to classify that as dark red, even though technically they are losing 1 congressional district. I'm just not going to count that in. So that is Alabama. Finally, we have Louisiana. The situation in Louisiana can actually be characterized in the same way as Alabama. As Alabama's situation, if Alabama were not to gain electoral votes or lose electoral votes. And that's because Democrats can challenge this current map in the courts. Louisiana is not going to gain or lose a congressional district. That said, Democrats can still challenge it in the courts because they can argue that that there needs to be another black majority congressional district in the state because there are enough black Americans in Louisiana for that to happen. So that will most likely be their argument. And if that goes through, then that means that Democrats can gain a congressional district, which would be Louisiana's 5th congressional district. Currently, this seat is vacant, but if that would happen, then the 5th district would have Baton Rouge, and then the 2nd district would be New Orleans, instead of this very, very messed up kind of congressional district right there. That district is heavily gerrymandered. But if this map were to go, then both of these seats would be 52% plus black. So it would most likely be black Democrats that would represent in both districts. Now, that's contingent on the courts if they rule in favor of Democrats, and I'm not going to try to assume that the courts rule in favor of anyone. So I'm going to try to rule all of the potential court shenanigans as dilatory, and I'm going to say that Republicans will just have the same map as before. So now that we are done with these 3 states and it's less than 10 minutes, let's go to, we can go to Massachusetts, because, yeah, we're going to start to move to bigger states. Now, Massachusetts, actually, this one is more of a simple one, so if I am able to get Massachusetts done before, in less than 10 minutes, then yeah, I'm definitely going to do another state, most likely Washington. So if we go to Massachusetts, there's not much that can happen. Now, the governor of Massachusetts is a Republican, so that is something to note. That's it. I believe Democrats have a 2/3 majority in both chambers to override Charlie Baker, and Wikipedia does not have that. Okay, let's go. Yeah, it's Democratic control, which means that they have a supermajority to veto Charlie Baker's to override Charlie Baker's veto. Now, this is currently the map that they have. That said, they could gerrymander this more. It's not really gerrymandered. I mean, it's questionable as to how gerrymandered this is. I don't think it's that gerrymandered. That said, if they wanted to gerrymander it even more, they can do something like this. This map actually looks less gerrymandered than the current maps. But what this does is that currently the 9th district has a 80% chance of being Democratic. That said, that's the lowest margin of chance for Democrats in any of these congressional districts. So then what could happen with the gerrymander towards Democrats is that this would increase the chances for Dems from 79.5% to 87.4%. And the reason why that happens is because currently we have this district going into this area, which I assume is more Republican. And so this kind of district here would combine this Republican vote with the Boston suburbs, which would vote Democratic. So yeah, that's Massachusetts. And since it's less than 10 minutes, I will fit another state into this video, and I'll fit Washington into it because Washington is also easy to characterize. So Massachusetts. Let's get blue, dark blue, and white here. And then for Washington, I believe is not going to gain an electoral vote. They're not going to lose an electoral vote either. And you can translate that to congressional district. If I say electoral vote, that also means congressional district. So what could happen here? Well, in terms of what can happen, I don't think anything can really happen with Washington. And the reason why is because Washington is one of the Democratic states where the responsibilities is delegated to an independent commission instead of the state legislature themselves controlling the process. So this map is already proportionally partisan, which means it breaks down the partisan electorate, so it matches it. And as you can see here, there are two competitive districts. This one has a higher chance of being a Republican. That said, it's managed currently a Democrat controls that one. And then here's a 23% chance, and that one's controlled by a Republican. For this one, I'm gonna just keep it as Democratic. I know for Maine, I said that even though a Democrat controls that congressional district, I'm gonna give it to Republicans because it has a higher chance. For this one, I'm gonna keep it for Democrats, mainly because the chances is a very kind of swing congressional district. So for that, I have a better reason to think that would stay Democratic. So those are all the states that I will cover in this video. Let's go over to Washington and get this one colored in. Washington. And I think we have passed the halfway mark actually in the beginning of this video I think we passed the halfway mark. So now we are done with more than 27 states, I believe. I know the halfway mark is 25, but I'm trying to make it a little more accurate. So we have at least 27 or 28 states done. We have a lot more to go through because the remaining states are a lot larger in terms of the amount of congressional districts it does have. That said, in the next video, I'm going to see if I can manage to fit four states in, that being Oregon, Colorado, Missouri, and Ohio. If I'm not able to fit 4 states in, then I'll just shift Ohio to the next video. So I hope you like this video. This video is now adjourned, and I'll see you in the next one.